Up, everybody? It's your boy Michael Henderson. New Grow Wellness, Self-Transformation Mastery. That is who we are, why we're here, and what we do all day, every day. And today I want to talk to you about 3 reasons why I intermittent fast and consume a high fat, low carb, moderate protein diet. I guess you could say keto, but I don't really test and do all the extra stuff. But yeah, high fat, low carb, moderate protein. 3 reasons why. All right. So, and when you fast, understand that, in my opinion, there's 3 times that you can fast: before your first meal, which is the other side of after your last meal, and then in between your meals, right? So, you have to say, oh, I got to eat 5, 6 meals a day. Well, try going to 4 meals a day and fasting longer between the meals, right? So if you eat at 8 a.m., try not to eat again until 1 or 2 p.m. And then try not to eat again until 6 or 7 p.m. Well, how do I get all my meals in? Aha, well, then you realize maybe you don't need to eat 4 times a day. Just saying. But there's also complete fasting, like where you are not consuming anything, no liquids, right? That's called a dry fast, right? So you're just doing a dry fast, no water, no bone broth, no juice, nothing, just dry. And then there's a water fast where you consume nothing but water. And then there's juice fasting where you consume only fresh made vegetable and fruit juices. And then there's also fasting with bone broth. I like to put bone broth and juices together, or separate, not separate, but on backside of one another, because it's about getting the minerals and the nutrients, the vitamins, in the liquid state to bypass the digestive process. So you're getting that nutrients, but you're not causing your body to start digesting. So those are a few different ways to fast. And then there's also solar fasting, where you are like, that's more for warmer climates that are next to the equator, closer. They get longer sunlight, so you would essentially be outside meditating. You could do yoga, just rest, grounding in the sunlight, right? And you're getting vital nutrients, phytonutrients, solar nutrients from the sun. Yes. Um, but my very first reason of why I do intermittent fasting slash keto is because I'm aligning with nature, right? I live in Michigan, which is a colder climate, so without getting too far back into my genetics, and am I from a region that's closer to the equator at some point, from southern United States? I don't know. But right now, in most of my life, I've lived in Michigan, and before that, I lived in New York. It's cold. We don't get an abundance of fresh fruit and vegetables in the wintertime. Therefore, or even grains and things like that. Yes, we have an abundance of it because we live in modern agricultural times where you can get anything you want. But if I'm aligning with nature, I have to eat by where I'm at. I live in a colder climate. It's colder longer than it's warmer. So a higher fat diet allows my thermogenesis to kick up a little bit more. I don't have to scramble for, like, where do I get my fruits? Where do I get my vegetables? They're being shipped in from California or Mexico or something like that, which we know they're being picked way too early. I'm not even getting vital nutrients anyway, and it's just low quality fruit and vegetables. So, being intermittent fasting and keto allows me to, you know, eat and mimic the climate that I live in. But I also align with nature because there's 24 hours in a day. You break that down into 3 cycles, right? You have 8 hours of sleeping, which is resting and fasting. You have 8 hours of an eating window, and then you have 8 hours of digestion and assimilation, which also happens when you're resting, right? But you don't want all those windows to cross. You shouldn't be eating while you're digesting, and you shouldn't be digesting when you're recovering, rejuvenation, fasting, so to speak. So that aligns me with nature as well. Um, and then also, like, the nature of who I am as an adult, right? Being 30, almost 33 years old, my nature is I'm no longer trying to grow. I'm no longer a baby, a child, or an adolescent that's looking to grow, right? A baby eats more frequently, not necessarily more calories, but they eat more frequently because they're constantly growing. They eat and they sleep, right? Feed the cells that are rapidly uh, multiplying and rapidly growing, and then also they need to sleep to allow recovery and fasting, right? I'm an adult. I'm a full-grown adult. I don't want to grow anymore, not even muscularly, right? I'm not into competitive bodybuilding anymore. I'm not a football player. I just want to maintain. If anything, I want to create. I live right now for quality, and also longevity, right? Like, can I maintain my quality over a longer period of time, well into my 60s, 70s, and 80s? So I align with nature that way, which a key term is, some people may say autophagy, but it's autophagy, right? Autophagy is basically the process of uh, when the cells are at their state of autophagy, auto eat. Basically, our live, healthy, active, vibrant cells go through a period where they consume and eat the dead versions, essentially, of themselves. They're dead cousins, right? It's gruesome, right? So there's dead cells, right? Cells that die in our body, right? When we're constantly eating and constantly, trying to digest and all that, we're bypassing autophagy, which is the cells cleaning up the cellular biome, right? There's a bunch of dead cells floating around. The cells that are alive, healthy, and active, when they go through autophagy, they're eating the waste of the other dead cells, right? Which is cleaning it out, right? If you have dead cells floating around, then you have free radicals, so to speak, right? Toxins floating around, and your body might start to try to encapsulate that into, cysts, tumors, things like that. So, fasting allows your body to go to that process of autophagy, which allows your cells to reproduce and consume and clean up all the dead waste. So that's which helps with aging, helps with anti-disease. You stay youthful, you stay vibrant. Your mind, everything stays more vibrant and crisp, right? Autophagy. So that's reason number one, aligning with nature. Reason number two is brain and intestinal health, right? Eating all day, it's just we're not made to eat all day, right? If you think of our intestinal tract and our stomach, that's essentially a water system, right? Your stomach isn't just open and full the whole time, right? It's literally like a closed water balloon, flat. And then when you eat and start to digest the process in your mouth, your stomach fills up with oxygen and hydrochloric acid, right? To prepare to break down the food, further break it down to extract the juices so they can run through the small intestine, which is liquid. Large intestine is to get the waste, the physical waste, the fecal matter out. The small intestine gets the liquid, which is where the nutrients is contained. It goes over the microvilli, right? So that's what the digestive process is. When we're constantly eating, right? Just like if you have a garbage disposal or an RV, you can't just keep shoving things down the pipe, right? Even your toilet, things get backed up in the toilet if you put too much toilet paper or other products, hygiene products, things that shouldn't be flushed down the toilet. You flush them down the toilet, it starts to get backed up and it overflows. Your body's the same way. Your intestines can get backed up, which causes intestinal inflammation, and then leaky gut, where your actual food particles are bypassing the intestinal barrier and it gets into the blood, and that's not good. But also brain, right? The brain cognition, right? So it allows, which they call your gut. Some people call it your first brain, some people call it your second brain. But your gut is connected to this, right? These two connect and they communicate. So if your intestines are backed up and stuffed all the time and you're constipated, your brain's going to be foggy and you're not going to be able to think straight, and your cognition and your memory is going to be fuzzy, right? But fasting itself, so fasting allows your gut to empty out, so you can keep the lining of your intestinal tract clean, right? So that's where your nutrients are absorbed. So when food passes through there, it's being absorbed nutrient, bioavailable, right? Higher rate of absorption of nutrients, right? That's when people are constipated, they're constantly hungry. They have a full, tight belly, they haven't pooped in days, but they're hungry because they're not absorbing nutrients because their intestines are just gunked up and full of crap, literally, right? But fasting also helps the brain produce proteins called BDNF, right? Brain-derived nootropic factors, right? BDNF, they're proteins, right? And BDNF helps with learning, memory, and it also helps create new nerve cells, right? Everything in our body is connected electrically through nerve cells, through the nervous system, which your hair is an extension of your nervous system, right? There's a really cool thing about Native Americans in World War II that had long hair and that they could like track people, right? Without any technology, they just knew where people were, and then they cut their hair and then they lost that ability. But anyways, so your nervous system is, right, everything, right? Coffee, too much coffee depletes your nervous system, right? Too many narcotics, prescriptions, antibiotics, stress, radiation, things like that strips your nervous system, and that's when we get anxiety, and then you also can get like MS and things like that. So BDNF, brain-derived nootropic factors, help regenerate and create new nerve cells, right? So that's why fasting has been linked to helping halt, if not reverse, dementia and Alzheimer, right? Not only is your gut inflamed, but your brain's inflamed, right? Brain inflammation alone is linked to depression. And if that happens chronically, and then you start adding depression medication, things happen, right? Then you're stripping the nervous system even more, right? So fasting allows your gut to empty out so you can absorb nutrients, which is fed to your whole body, but it also allows your brain to regenerate itself, so to speak, literally, right? And there's tons of brain scans and science and articles and research that all prove this, right? This is no longer hearsay, but if you go back to the biblical days, so you're in the Bible, which is the religious text, but also in that time period, people fasted naturally because people couldn't afford food as much in classism. But Jesus fasted all the time, right? He fasted to get himself closer to God, which we can take that as far as you want, right? Like basically, you gain so much clarity that you begin to see your perspective of life is different, right? So brain and intestinal health. And the third and final reason, sorry, I'm trying to keep this video shorter, but so many nuggets, right? The third reason of why I fast intermittently and do a high fat diet, because of simplicity and planning, right? If you know Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day. You know, the black turtleneck, the New Balances, and the light wash jeans. He did that so he didn't have to waste time, mental brain energy, trying to figure out what he was going to wear that day. And we all have been through that. Oh, I don't know. We're going here. I don't know. And you put something on and you take it off and you try this, right? That's brain energy. And then we say, oh, I don't have time to do this. Or I can't commit to that because it is. But it's like, if you start looking at the things that we waste our energy on, such as what we're going to wear today, right? And then if you go back to biblical, right? The birds don't worry about what they're going to wear. They don't worry about what they're going to wear, what they're going to eat. They just be birds. That's it. They just focus on being birds. But that's what they were made to do. So, simplicity and planning. Because you eat one, you eat less frequently. I'm not eating 6 meals a day like I used to as a competitive bodybuilder. I'm not even eating 4 meals a day. Some days I may have 3. But really, if I'm having a 6-hour eating window because I fasted for 18 hours, which is my normal, I'm really eating a meal, and it's one meal. It's a 6-hour eating window. Like I don't eat the whole 6 hours because that's grazing to me. But essentially, I'm having 1, maybe 2 meals, if that's what you want to call it. You know, I usually will have one huge solid meal and then maybe a shake or something like that. Or, you know, get 80-90% of my calories and then do the last 10 to 30% later as a snack or whatever, right? Or if I do like a 20-hour fast, the longer the fast, it's feast or famine, right? The longer I fast, I usually will go to one meal, right? I'll do my workout, which creates, insulin sensitivity and better absorption and digestion, and then I have my meal. So I don't have to sit here and think about, oh, what meal? I'm bored, right? Like if I'm eating 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day, every 5 days, that's 10 meals. That's what most people eat in 2 days. Think about how much freedom of thinking I have, right? If you eat less frequently, I'm eating the same amount of calories, essentially. I'm eating less frequently, which is less meals, which is less grocery, which is more time, which is more money, which is more experience, which is more abundance and quality of living. So I don't have to fret and spend time like, oh, I got to map out my meal plan. Oh, I'm bored. Oh, I'm sick of cooking. Oh, I'm sick of cleaning up. Right? Those are all excuses we make for ourselves of why we don't adhere to a sound nutrition plan. Right? And it's also easier to eat socially. Right? So if my friends want to go out and get some Mexican food, some sushi, steaks, burgers, it's so much easier for me to put that in when I'm only eating once or twice a day and the caloric intake is larger. So instead of eating 4 500 calorie meals, I'm eating one 1100 calorie meal, and then a 500 or 600 calorie meal, or one 1200 calorie meal, and I'm not scarfing it down in an hour or half an hour. If I go out, I might eat as much as I can and just socially chit chat and then take the rest home. But I know I have 4 hours to eat, or 2 hours to eat, or 6 hours to eat, right? So I can be more social because I get more calories per sitting. I'm eating higher fat, so I don't have to be, I want egg whites, I want boneless, skinless chicken breasts. Like, I can eat, better cuts of steak and beef and better cuts of chicken and all those things, and whole eggs, and if you do dairy, cheeses, things like that, right? Um, Larger variety, just like I was just saying, larger variety, nuts, avocados, right? Like a lot of times we're like, oh, I don't get as many, I don't get carbs because I'm keto, or I don't get as many carbs. I stay below 50. I usually go between 20 and 50, and then sometimes I'll just go 20 or less, and sometimes I'll go zero as best as possible, right? But I never go above 50, other than like planned to get glycogen, just to trick my metabolism. So, yeah, you just get a larger variety of food and ability to eat. You don't have to count. You count carbs, but you don't have to count like like all these diet foods or light or fat free or low this or low. Those are all fake foods, right? Dairy and cheeses and butters and nut butters and things like that are all made from fat, and they should be full fat, not half fat, not 2%, not no fat. Those aren't real products, right? And then, like I said, feast or famine, right? Like I can fast, today at 3 p.m. when I eat will be 24 hours. I have energy, my brain's clear, I'm not hungry. I'm not spending time eating. I'm not spending time making food. Like now, I usually am home making my breakfast. I don't have to do that right now. So, and then as the weekend approaches, and like, let's say my friends want to go out. All right, cool. Usually, I'll just fast up until that time. Maybe have like break my fast with like a nice salad or something like that prior to going out, so I have the fiber and the bolus ahead of it. It's just something I like to do. But yeah. So, to cut this video, try to make it under 17 minutes and 30 seconds. 3 reasons why I fast and have a high-fat diet: align with nature, brain and intestinal health, and simplicity in planning. I hope you found these 3 nuggets to be nuggets. Dip it in that barbecue sauce or ketchup if you're a little boring, or ranch and hot sauce. I don't know how you get down. Honey mustard, what you do? Regular honey, dip those nuggets, right? Get it in. Be good to yourself. Love yourself. Thank you for watching. If you haven't, go ahead and hit the like button, the subscribe button. Stay tuned for more post tips and just the overall journey to my goal of overall health and wellness. What is it to you? Find out next. Peace.